I've worked with a company called Arrtx several times now, and most recently they very kindly sent me some of their marker pads to try, as well as another collection of their alcohol markers. If you remember a good amount of time ago, I want to say probably like 6 months to a year ago, Arrtx sent me some alcohol markers to try, and they are without a doubt the most beautiful markers I have ever seen on the market right now. Like, they are absolutely gorgeous, and as you can see here, so is pretty much like everything to do with Arrtx. All of their products are so pretty. I thought the actual cover for these sketch pads was absolutely gorgeous. These sketch pads are marker paper, essentially. They're marketed to work for other mediums as well, but their primary focus is supposed to be based on alcohol markers, which is nice because I also have this gorgeous set of 90 alcohol markers. So as I said, Arrtx definitely has the like prettiest packaging. They are so nice, and like the markers are really pretty. If you've never seen them before, they just have this really gorgeous scalloped edge on the ends, and I love their products so much. And the actual markers that they had sent me previously were designated to be like very specific color sets. So there was like a pink set, purple set, a blue set, and a green set, and they were just various shades of that one tone. So it was really cool to get my hands on this set and actually have like a much more balanced and much more like explorative color selection. So I was super excited to try this set. Upon opening up the packaging, as you can see, it's very just like the colors are everywhere. So I absolutely had to go through and actually organize the colors into a way that makes sense for me. Arrtx also does send you an actual little chart so you can do swatches on, like they send you a little piece of paper so you can swatch all of your markers. And in my experience working with that chart with my original markers, I did swatch it the first time I got markers from them, but I personally found that that paper really didn't translate the colors too well. So as you'll see in a moment here, I just went ahead and I swatched it on the marker pads that they sent me, since for me there was really no point in swatching it on the paper they give, because my last experience, the colors did not actually come across very accurately on that paper, so it was like, I'm good. But like I said, very first thing I had to do was organize these markers in a way that made a lot more sense to me and just made it like easier to physically look at them. So I went ahead and did that. I just kind of did like a Regibiv organization in here, and it was so satisfying to do this. This was actually a lot of fun. There's 90 markers in total, so this took a little bit of time. I was trying not to be like super picky with it, just kind of keep it the general colors together, and now you can kind of see a lot more of what this color selection actually has to offer. So as you can see, it's very gray and red oriented, especially when you compare like the yellows and the greens to the reds and the pinks. There's not a very even disbursement of colors, and especially for a marker set that has 90 markers, like I don't even have 90 Copic markers, and those are my main markers, but like for a set that has so many markers, I personally would expect them to focus a lot more on, I guess, just having a more well-rounded color selection. It really looks like they do upon first looking at the color selection, but especially after swatching them, so many of like the blues especially, I was pretty disappointed when I was swatching the pastel blues because they looked so similar to each other. Like really, you could have gotten away with having two pastel blues and instead focused on either better midtones or darker tones. Because in looking at my actual swatch sheet in person of these markers, something that this set definitely lacks is having like a good balanced arrangement of pastel shades, medium tones, and darker tones within a color family. There really isn't actually any like super dark reds, any deep reds. I would argue that they're all midtones. There's one that kind of pushes the line of being a darker shade, but they're pretty much all midtones. There's really not a good selection of midtones of greens. Blues are okay, but there's way too many pastel blues in this set. And then purples are very sparse. There aren't really any dark tones of purple, and I feel like there could have been more midtones, since purple can lean either really pink or really red or really blue, and there's just not a huge selection. And then there's really not a good selection of medium tones or mid-tones when it comes to the beige colors. You go from super pastel to pretty dark, and that makes it kind of hard if you're trying to do any kind of really intense blending when you don't have that middle ground. There are a ton of neutral tones in this set as far as like the grays go. They went above and beyond with the grays, and I felt like that's something that could have been taken out, but anyways, that's my only problem with these markers in this set at all, is just the fact that it looks like such a good color selection, but the actual like ink doesn't match the cap super well. So once you actually get to swatching it out, it's really not as much of a nice, like, wide variety of a color selection that I would expect from a 90 set of markers. Now, that complaint aside, I really loved working with these markers. I really liked working with the Arrtx markers the first time I used them, but this time it was so nice having a much larger variety of colors in the set. I had so much fun working with these markers. The actual finish on the barrel of the markers is so smooth. They have like a triangular barrel, but it's very comfortable and easy to hold. And the finish on the markers feels so nice, and it's so comfortable to hold. I love the appearance of these markers and the feel of these markers. These ones don't have a brush nib, they have a bullet nib. I probably should have said that earlier. We didn't get there. I really went off on the whole color selection thing. But I loved working with these markers. I don't think I've ever really actively gone in and just done like a straight sketch and like a finished little doodle with alcohol markers. I think I've always had at least some kind of base, like pencil sketch or whatever it may be. But like prior to actually recording this video, I hadn't drawn in probably like a week or two. So I was just kind of like trying to play around and I guess just brainstorm and have fun with art. And I really enjoyed this actual session of working with these markers. The markers work absolutely amazing. I love working with chisel tips. As far as the bullet nib goes, I definitely prefer brush alcohol markers as opposed to bullet nibs, just because they're a lot easier to blend, and I feel like I can still get that fine like bullet nib line out of a brush marker. So whenever I find myself working with alcohol markers that don't have a brush nib, I find myself fluctuating to using the chisel nib so much, and it's really cool to get the very like angular shapes and stuff that you can get out of just using the chisel side instead of heavily focus on coloring in with the bullet nib or worrying about like coloring within the lines, getting a very specific shape. It's very fun to just kind of be very free with a chisel nib and just kind of do whatever the chisel nib wants to do. And then as far as the paper that they sent me goes, I personally have really found myself recently realizing that I'm not the biggest fan of marker paper just because of how thin it is and how smooth it is. And like, I don't know, I've tried only a couple of brands of marker paper, mind you, so like this could technically, I guess, be a very biased opinion of someone who just hasn't enjoyed the paper that I've tried thus far, but I'm personally not super into thin paper especially, so I always feel so weird using marker paper because it's so thin and it feels so delicate. But this paper specifically, it is considered to be marker paper, like that's how they market it and that's what they say it is even on their Amazon listing, is that it's marker paper. You can use it for other mediums, but like I feel like every paper you can use for different mediums. But this is like without a doubt the thickest marker paper I've tried, and I absolutely love this paper. They sent me 3 pads of it, and honestly, I didn't even know they were going to send this to me. Like upon initially talking with them, I didn't realize they were going to send me paper. Absolutely a happy surprise because I'm always down to try new things, especially when it comes to papers, because there's so many options out there. Like there's so many brands, and even within one brand, they might have a dozen different kinds of paper. So it's always nice to get my hands on different kinds of paper and try it out. And especially when they sent me 3 different like actual pads of the paper, I can share it with friends, which is really nice. But I loved working with this paper. Without a doubt, this is my favorite marker paper I've ever worked with. The colors went on super smooth, and like the actual feel of the paper, like I mentioned, it was like by far the thickest marker paper I've ever used. So I really enjoyed working with it because it didn't feel like this super flimsy piece of paper. And I know like the actual thickness and weight of the paper, like when it comes to markers, it really has nothing to do with the actual performance of the paper, but just the feel of it made me really enjoy working with it, and I had absolutely no problems with the markers interacting on it. On their Amazon listing, it does say that this paper is bleed proof in the sense of it won't bleed to the sheet of paper behind it, and I didn't experience that at all. I was precautionary and I laid down like a piece of printer paper after the sheet just to make sure I didn't ruin the piece of paper behind it, and nothing ended up bleeding onto that. Afterwards, I kind of gave up on the printer sheet idea since it didn't look like anything was going to bleed, and I did not have any kind of problems with that. Mind you, I did not go in with any kind of like really dark, super pigmented colors. I didn't do a ton of layering, which is where it really comes into play whether or not things will bleed, but at least for the artworks I did in this video where I did kind of like medium tone stuff and a little bit of darker coloring, nothing bled, so that was super exciting. And then as far as the artwork for this video goes, I know I have done a lot of talking about things that were not the specific artwork, but I'm drawing the super cute girls from Dragon Maid, which is an anime that I've very recently gotten into, and I absolutely adore it. It's so insanely cute. I've heard about it and I've seen so many cosplays of it. Like, I have been very aware of Dragon Maid for the longest time. It just, personally, I'm so bad about getting into new shows, especially anime. I feel like nowadays it's like someone has to sit me down and have me watch it with them. Otherwise, chances are I will not get into new stuff, which is exactly what happened with Dragon Maid. But I have really enjoyed watching the show because it's such like a nice, peaceful, laid back, happy anime. And like, I don't know, it's so cute, guys. It's just happy times. The entire time. Nothing bad happens. Nothing very bad happens, I should say. I guess like minor like drama things happen, but like, I don't know, it's just a cute, happy slice of life anime, and it's really nice watching an episode every week as they come out for season 2, and I love all the girls in this anime so much. Everyone is so cute. Oh. If you haven't seen Dragon Maid, I highly suggest it. It's very fan servicey, but if you get past the fan servicey, which like, I feel like it's not even, well, I was going to say it's not even that bad, and then I remember the canonical design of Lulu, which is the most recent character, and like, God, her boobs are bigger than her head by like a lot. It's a lot to experience, but aside from that, it's so good. It's such a cute anime. And it was also super nice to actually finally sit down and draw some of the girls from the anime because I have been meaning to for so long. I feel like every time I'm actually sitting down and watching Dragon Maid, I'm reminded of how much I actually want to draw these girls and like make cute fan art of them and maybe make cute stickers of them. And then pretty much as soon as we stop watching Dragon Maid, that thought completely leaves my mind and does not revisit me until the next week in which I am watching Dragon Maid again. So that's a thing that's been happening to me. I feel like there's so many things, like especially fan art stuff, that I'm like, oh, I'm like I'd love to draw fan art of this series or of this specific character. And then when I actually sit down to draw and make art, I don't remember that at all. It's very cursed. I don't know if any of you guys have this problem. I don't even know what to call this problem. It's called dummy. That's what it's called. But I had so much fun drawing these girls, and I had so much fun using these markers. I really don't use alcohol markers as much as I used to, but I still really like playing with the medium because I feel like it's a very casual medium. Like, when it comes to watercolors, there are just so many factors of using the watercolors and so many methods of using the watercolors. And by all means, there's different methods of stuff you can do with alcohol markers, but the process as a whole is just like so much more casual than watercolors, and it's very fun. I had a lot of fun doing these like very simple casual alcohol marker art, which is something I really don't do. I feel like anytime I use alcohol markers, it's always something very finished and very polished, versus when I was drawing these, I was just kind of having fun and playing with markers, so I really enjoyed that. And if you guys are interested in either the alcohol markers or the paper pads, I'll leave links in the description box below. Arrtx does have like a ton of different variations of actual sets for their alcohol markers, and from what I see, recently they also launched brush markers for their alcohol markers, which if you know anything about alcohol markers, you probably know that brush nibs means that alcohol markers are a lot more expensive, so that's definitely the case with the Arrtx markers, but I guess that's just kind of the market. But if you are someone who's very opposed to having a chisel nib and really wants a brush nib, that is also something that's available, so if you're interested, that's out there. And if you've made it this far in the video, thank you guys so much for watching. I really didn't expect in this actual sitting down and drawing session to do 4 separate little like doodle illustrations, but like I said, I had so much fun using these markers, so I just kind of wanted to keep going and go with the momentum that I had upon using them, because I'm back into that weird phase of I haven't drawn a whole lot lately. So it was really nice to sit down and actually do a handful of illustrations instead of just a couple. And I was actually really happy with pretty much all of these, so that's always a bonus to end a drawing session. But like I said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.